Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Katan, in the news, we're going to talk about the latest, what's taking place in Ukraine, Ukraine and Russia. NATO has promised $2.5 billion in aid and support there to continue to fund the war with Ukraine, supplying them with the much needed ammunition to continue the war. Right. But of course, we're also going to have Russia developing their latest, or actually kind of showing us again their latest missile that they called Satan II, which they said can defeat any type of anti-missile system that's out there. So, of course, that has some people concerned. And then also, we're going to talk a little bit about BRICS and how it first began, and now it added the fifth member, South Africa, of course, and as we mentioned, there's 6 new members that are going to start here in 2024. So those stories and many more, but first, the LGBTQ community in Dallas, Texas has some strong Catholic supporters. Take a look at what the Cathedral of Hope is doing to give honor to people in the gay community, but not everyone is showing their admiration for the group. Take a look at this video.
Dallas's Cathedral of Hope gave a blessing to drag queens today. The church, which has a primary outreach to the LGBTQ community, hosted the event in response to Senate Bill 12, which criminalizes performers who put on sexually explicit shows in front of children. Around 40 people protested in front of the church with signs condemning LGBTQ people. Senior Pastor Neil Thomas called this a part of a growing persecution of drag queens and transgender people in the U.S.
But SB 12 has quite sincere ramifications, specifically aimed at drag community, who are using this law potentially to discriminate against and to oppress a part of our community that has been a vital part since the movement of the LGBTQ plus community. About to say at my feet.
Now, supporters say Senate Bill 12 is needed to protect children. After the church service, local drag performers were invited onto the stage for a blessing.
Yeah, not everybody has the same ideology when it comes to that, and what they're seeing with the church, which is supposed to be a moral, place of morality, kind of supporting that way of life, which has been fought against for so long with so many.
Right, and hard to argue, as people were showing the signs there, that mankind was created man or male and female, man and woman, and not anything else.
Yeah, that's the only way mankind can continue, is with the existing system originally set up. Well, after their long journey and successfully crossing of the Rio Grande River, immigrants are processed through Border Patrol and sent on to a shelter for some needed attention. Jefferson Macana and his family are among them. Originally from Venezuela, Jefferson could not provide enough food for his family, so they set out to come to America and made it after a month of travel.
Well, his wife explains to Al Jazeera reporters that her husband nearly died during the river crossing because of a heart condition. He collapsed on the U.S. shore with convulsions. There, Jefferson was revived by American medics, to whom he is very grateful.
Well, now he waits in line for food for his family and shows reporters the electric monitor that immigration officials cuffed to his ankle. Macana agreed to wear it as a condition of being released into the country. Wearing an ankle cuff makes him feel like a criminal, but he isn't one, he tells Al Jazeera. The monitor prohibits me from leaving my registered address in the U.S. for longer than an hour, making it impossible to work, he said.
Right, hard to have a job if you can only leave for 1 hour.
Especially when his goal, his purpose for coming was to be able to take care of his family. Now he's here and he still can't do what he needs to do, right?
Also, the very reason he left his homeland to come to the U.S. is now still a problem for him if he is unable to work. The director of shelter explains that many families are facing the same disappointment, saying, quote, many of them believe that they are coming and that they're going to be able to work, so they come motivated by lies.
Well, the shelter takes care of asylum seekers' immediate needs, clean clothes, a sandwich, and some medical assistance, as many have wounds from crossing the razor wire-lined border. Many have cuts in their arms, feet, and legs. The shelter is also a place to wait until they can get transportation to cities in different areas. Well, most will end up staying with relatives while their immigration cases are open and undecided, and many of those cases end in orders to be deported back to their country of origin.
Well, as we continue now, we're going to turn our focus to the Ukraine-Russia war. Ukraine has been holding a number of unannounced meetings with top-ranking officials from NATO countries. Now, the NATO members pledged their continued support, like British Defense Secretary Grant Shapps, who said, "We feel your pain in what happened, and we want to see a resolution, which is the resolution you want to acquire."
Just a year ago, Ukraine had taken back about half the territory Russia had seized after invading in February of 2022. But since June of this year, the take-back has slowed down. However, NATO Secretary General Hans Stoltenberg believes Ukraine is still gaining ground, although more gradually. In a recent visit, to Ukraine, the NATO chief had this to say, quote, every meter that Ukrainian forces regain is a meter that Russia loses. And there is a stark contrast, he said. Ukrainians are fighting for their families, their future, their freedom. Moscow is fighting for imperial delusions, end quote.
While there, Stoltenberg announced another $2.5 billion in support. Now, sometimes, however, politics in the surrounding nations can cause problems. For example, there was a dispute over grain imports in Poland last week, which led the European country to halt arms deliveries to Kiev. Now, while the problem was quickly resolved, it reminded Ukraine that they should not take European help for granted.
Sébastien Lecornu, the French defense minister, had this to say on the topic, quote, we will keep on handing weapons over to Ukraine, but this handover, which was a principle, is now going to be an exception. I insist. It means we will keep on handing over, but only when we do not have other solutions, end quote.
€1 billion in contracts to European arms dealers is the latest aid package that NATO has given to Ukraine. Now, this is crucial at this point because the ammunition stockpiles in Europe are running low, and it's uncertain whether the United States could make up the difference, especially when it comes to artillery shells, which are in high demand.
Well, any time a visit of this nature occurs, that is with an official visiting Ukraine, President Zelensky pushes for the need for air defenses to protect its cities, but also key power structures. If you remember, that was a problem earlier in this conflict where Russia had hit a few of the power stations, and that was a big concern because some of them are also nuclear power stations as well. Stoltenberg has committed more than $2.5 billion, as we said, in more ammunition, tank shells, etc. Stoltenberg said that they're in this for the long haul, as they foresee that this conflict now could go on beyond 2025.
Okay, it's the first time we've heard them actually throw out a year, saying it's going to go on well over another year. Yeah. Well, the 15th annual BRICS summit was held in Johannesburg, South Africa. Now, President Putin's travel was complicated by an international court's arrest warrant for the president over the alleged abduction of children from Ukraine. Now, the topic of the bloc's expansion is raising a question about whether we are seeing the beginnings of a new world order. Now, BRIC, the B-R-I-C, was coined in 2001 by then Goldman Sachs chief economist Jim O'Neill, referring to 4 countries who were enjoying economic growth at the time.
But in 2010, South Africa joined, which is when it became known as BRICS, with the S at the end. Altogether, the coalition makes up 25% of global economy, 43% of the world's population. The organization focuses also on economic cooperation and multilateral trade and development.
And as we mentioned, there are 6 additional countries now that are going to be joining, actually already accepted, and they're going to start in 2024. But then there was others too that are kind of waiting in line. So we can see the BRICS is going to continue to grow.
That's right.
Well, continuing with Russia and its war efforts, take a look at this next video regarding one of Russia's most powerful missiles in its arsenal, the RS-28 Sarmat. It's an ICBM, also known as Satan II, and Russia's plan for its use.
Russia has introduced a formidable weapon that has raised concerns among its rivals. Moscow has officially deployed the RS-28 Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, known as Satan II, for active military use. This announcement was confirmed by Yuri Borisov, the head of Russia's space agency Roscosmos, as reported by the Russian state news agency TASS. According to experts, the RS-28 Sarmat missile has the capability to travel over both the North and South Poles and deliver a warhead weighing up to 10 tons to any location on Earth. This development has amplified concerns about Russia's nuclear capabilities, particularly in the context of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. In today's video, we will delve into the details of the Russian Sarmat ICBM and its potential for dealing with Russia's adversaries. Before going further, let's examine what the Russian President Vladimir Putin has had to say about this intercontinental ballistic missile. The Sarmat ICBM is one of 6 advanced Russian strategic weapons introduced by President Vladimir Putin on March 1, 2018, marking the next generation of nuclear missile technology. Although White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby couldn't confirm reports of Russia's Sarmat missile being placed on combat readiness, it's worth noting that President Putin had previously discussed its deployment. As early as February, Putin announced that the Sarmat would soon be ready for deployment. Prior to that, the Sarmat missile underwent its successful test in April 2022. During the test, Putin described the missile as having the highest tactical and technical characteristics and the ability to defeat all modern anti-missile defenses. According to him, there are currently no equivalents worldwide, and it's unlikely there will be any in the near future. He believes this weapon will make those who engage in aggressive rhetoric against Russia think twice. This claim makes us wonder, what are the precise capabilities of this missile that instill such confidence in Putin, prompting him to believe it can make Russia's adversaries think twice? The RS-28 Sarmat, often referred by Western media as Satan II, is a Russian ICBM powered by liquid fuel and developed by the Kiev Rocket Design Bureau. Its primary purpose is to replace the R-36 ICBMs, which had a maximum range of 9,940 miles. Russian officials assert that this subterranean-based Sarmat missile has the capacity to carry up to 15 nuclear warheads, although the U.S. military believes it can accommodate only 10 warheads. In terms of specification, the RS-28 Sarmat is an enormous missile, weighing over 200 tons and boasting an impressive range of 11,000 miles. It stands at a towering 116 feet in length and can carry up to 15 light nuclear bombs. Its substantial range allows it to target locations in both Europe and the United States effectively. Moreover, it's crucial to emphasize that the Sarmat missile has an extraordinarily short initial launch phase, which allows very little time for observation equipment to track its flight. What makes it even more daunting is its ability to achieve speeds surpassing 12,000 miles per hour, potentially reaching the farthest points in Europe within just 3 minutes. This weapon will make the enemy think twice and has no rival in the world. Considering this, another question arises. Does Russia plan to really use it to demolish its enemy? There's currently no available information on Russia's specific strategy for employing the Satan II missile against its adversaries. However, Alexei Zhuravlyov, the deputy head of the Defense Committee, made a concerning statement during an interview with Russian TV. He used the threat of deploying the Satan II missile in response to Sweden's and Finland's expressed interest in joining NATO, particularly in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Mr. Zhuravlyov asserted that Moscow could deploy the Satan II to retaliate against these nations and also target the UK and US, which the Putin regime sees as the primary forces behind NATO. He cautioned that if the United States threatened Russia, they have the Sarmat missile, and this could lead to serious nuclear consequences. He went on to explain that the Sarmat missile could be launched from Siberia and even reach the UK. And if launched from Kaliningrad, it would take just 200 seconds for the hypersonic missile to reach its target.
Boy, I'm sure that the United States and many of the European nations are not really, comfortable with the fact that Russia has this, and has also pretty much made it pretty clear that we'll use this if we need to, and it's going to come really fast, and there's not really anything you could do to stop it.
Right, I remember a couple years ago when Russia introduced some of their hypersonics, and the United States clearly said, we have nothing to defend against this type of missile use.
Yeah, and it's pretty common what we're seeing also with China as well, and some of their development of their missile technology, and like you said, that it's kind of on the fence about the United States' ability to defend itself against such weaponry. Well, lastly, here's a video to close out our broadcast of former President Trump, and listen to his thoughts on the state of our country and where it's headed.
These are incompetent people. We have incompetent people running our country, and our country has never been in more danger of World War III than it is right now. These are incompetent people. We have incompetent people running our country, and our country has never been in more danger of World War III than it is right now.
Well, he's definitely not off course with the statement of heading towards World War III. He's not the first one or the only one to make that statement. And with the current state of affairs, with the international tensions, the increase in weaponry, the threat of nuclear war, this economic, cooperation between many of the countries with BRICS, which is a threat to the United States, a hegemony over the world's economy, it's pushing everything to a breaking point.
Right, and former President Donald Trump, he was never afraid to speak his mind. He calls it the way he sees it. And as he said there's no doubt in his mind we're going to World War III.
That's right. Well, if you'd like to learn more about this pending war that the scriptures actually shows is going to take place in this generation, contact the House of Yahweh. And when you do, don't forget to request your free copy of the monthly newsletter and the prophetic word. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them by going to any of their websites. You can go to yahweh.com, yisraelhawkins.com, or yahwehsbranch.com. You can also visit our website by going to ypnnews.com. If you would like to email the House of Yahweh, you can do so by emailing info@yahweh.com. And for any international calls, you can call the number that's on your screen now. And once again, don't forget to go to the Yisrael Says program by going to yisraelsays.com, and you can check out the Ask Yisrael program by going to askyisrael.com.
Well, don't go anywhere. Get your pencil, paper, and your scriptures, because up next is another classic sermon by Yisrael Hawkins. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.